Even when you lay, damn, lay down. If you don't lay down somewhere, I'm gonna beat your butt. Now lay. Come on. She's gonna lay right behind me. Really? About a turd.
Judge, am I good to continue with that noise or? Before I continue, may we have break for just a moment?
All right. So what we're watching is the Ryan Duke versus, or should I say, Georgia versus Ryan Duke. It's the beauty queen murder trial. I've been waiting for this to start up. It was supposed to start before Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, but of course, you know, they're going to go celebrities before they go with the main thing. So we are watching the beginning of the trial. They have no sound as of right now. They will put it back on as soon as I think the jury comes in. So welcome in. How are y'all today? They should be bringing the jury in. And let's listen.
I think our system we turned off, Judge. So I'll keep going. You'll hear Ryan Duke, in his own words, describe how he broke into her residence. In his words, he was going through her purse and she surprised him, just reacted, and turned around and hit her. She died. And I'll tell you, his response was to run. He later comes back where that phone call comes in. He admits he's the one that made that phone call. He calls the house to see if anyone's there before he comes back. And again, something's wrong with the audio this morning with a bunch of stuff. But you'll be able not only to hear him say that, but to watch him in his own words. He'll tell law enforcement how this has been weighing on him, that he knows he should have done his best to give answers to family. You'll have a chance to see him and make your own decision about this statement. You'll hear from out of his own words confessing to her murder. You'll see him on video confessing to her. And you'll see it in his own handwriting. Confessing. Words are useless. The guilt of murdering Miss Grinstead. I don't feel like I deserve to be free to breathe. I can't comprehend the pain I have caused to her family and loved ones. I don't feel like I need to live with the pain I have caused. And he goes on. You'll have a chance to see that document that he wrote. Again, confessing to the murder of Tara Grinstead. He confesses that he's the one that brought the glove. The glove you'll hear about that has DNA, Tara Grinstead's DNA. He says that when he left her, when he ran, after she's on the ground, that he goes home and he gets the glove, or gloves. He keeps them at his residence for when he changes his kitty litter. And he brings the gloves with him, along with a blanket. And he carries her out of her residence and puts her in the truck. Now what you'll hear is that that truck belonged to his best friend, Bo Dukes. At the time, he and Bo were living together. Bo was staying at the house with Ryan and Ryan's brother, Stephen Duke. Ryan, in his interview, actually says he stole the vehicle. He took the keys out of Bo's pocket. I anticipate the evidence will show that he used the vehicle on a regular basis. So he takes her body, wrapped in a blanket, and carries her to the truck. And on the way, he drops the glove. He admits to being the one who made the phone call. He even knows that it's a 411 call. When they ask him, tell us about the phone call. How did that happen? How did you have her number? I dialed 411. Now remember, the evidence will show that had been kept secret for years. But he knew about it. And he admits to being the one to making that phone call. He then directs them to the place where he says he dumps her body. He confesses to taking her, putting her in this truck, and driving her to a location in Ben Hill County, which is known as Fitzgerald Farms. You'll hear from Randy Hudson, who is the current owner of that property. I believe back in 2005 he didn't own the property, he leased it, but his farm was run down. Near the orchard, because the evidence will show that initially Ryan dumps her sort of right off the back of the orchard and leaves her there. You'll hear him, while they're riding down there, giving law enforcement directions to the location. And then when they ride past the area, he'll say, that's around the place where I dumped her body before we got her and cremated her. It's the word that he uses for what they did to her body. Cremated her. And you'll hear him confess that he later gets his friend, Bo Dukes. You will hear him repeatedly during his confession say that Bo Dukes was never at Tara Grinstead's house. But what happened was after he had dumped her on essentially Bo's family's land. He was familiar with it because he and Bo were best friends and they went and had bonfires out there all the time. And at some point after that, he goes and he gets Bo. And initially, I think he'll tell you, you'll hear in his confession, that Bo didn't really believe him. But finally, he and Bo drive out there. He takes Bo to where her body is. And he'll tell you that Bo and he then take her body and move it to another location in the pines. You'll see a video of him showing law enforcement trying to locate the place where they, in his words, cremated her. It's changed since then. But he's out there. Incidentally, he's handcuffed, smoking a cigarette, walking around in the woods just fine, trying to show them where he cremated. He and Bo. As a result of his statement to law enforcement, they're able to speak with Randy Hudson, and Randy Hudson will tell you that he remembered a time back in '05 where he was very angry with his nephew, Bo Dukes. Now again, Randy Hudson didn't property at the time, but it was his farm, it was his pecan trees. But they didn't burn her in the pecan orchard, they burned her out in the woods near a bunch of pine trees. Now we all know the dangers of doing that in South Georgia. And so when Randy sees that they've done something, obviously he'll tell you he did not. He thought they had one of their bonfires and had just moved it further into the woods. He jumps all over Bo. He fusses at him, burning, having a bonfire in the middle where it could have caught fire. He fusses at them for taking the pecan wood to make the fire. He'll tell you the pecan wood didn't even belong to his family. It actually belonged to the widow of the gentleman who had owned that property. It was her pecan wood. And he was mad as fire that Bo had gone and taken her pecan wood. And so Randy had a specific memory of that incident. And you'll hear that when law enforcement speak to him about this, he knows exactly where that fire pit was. And he gets them to within, I'm terrible with distances, but I'd say about 10 feet. And they start to dig. And you'll hear about how they came up with this plan, a grid, to continue to dig. Layer by layer, they sifted through the dirt. And as they sifted, if they came up with something that they believed could be bone, it was given to this lady right here, Dr. Alice Gooding. She is a forensic anthropologist, which means that this is what she does for a living. She takes the bones and can identify not just that they're human, but generally what portion of the body they're from. GBI employed her in this case, and you'll get to hear from her. And through that dig, Tara is finally found, piece by piece by piece. Her backbone, her teeth, her fingers, her toes. That's what was left of Tara Grinstead after Bo Dukes and Ryan Duke cremated her. And you'll hear Ryan confess to this. You'll hear from Dr. Alice Gooding, and I anticipate what she'll tell you is that each of the bones that was identified in this case, she can tell you a few things about them. One, they identify human bones. There are some animal bones found. She can separate those out. She identifies human bones. She can tell you they're from an adult. She can tell you they're all from the same adult. And she can tell you that they've been burned. These are the bones that are found where the defendant, I burned Seth's body after I murdered her. But what about the glove? I told you earlier, we knew back in 2005 that Tara Grinstead's DNA was as well as an unknown male. Well, in 2017, Duke confesses. Law enforcement also gets a sample of his DNA. This is the first time he was ever swabbed in this case. And lo and behold, it's his. During the interview, Agent Dell will ask him, you'll hear it. Now, the DNA on the glove, is that going to be yours? And he says, yes. It should be. And it is. Now, there's a lot more details to this glove. There's DNA on the outside, there's DNA on the inside. They re-swabbed it in 2015. But the bottom line with the glove is the primary contributor to the glove of DNA is Ryan Duke. And we've had his DNA since 5. We just didn't know whose it was. And you'll hear in the spring, we do now know. He also confesses not just with his DNA, not just with his words, not with his writing, but with his prints. You'll hear that on the glove, in 2017, after he confesses, they look at the prints. That particular analyst will tell you that in 2017, she's actually able to identify what she refers to as 3 suitable for comparison prints. But they're actually palm prints, they're not fingerprints. I anticipate you'll hear from the gentleman who only identified 1 print. And I anticipate what he'll tell you is that he was very young and inexperienced in 2005. That he would have erred on the side of caution. But in 2017, when you hear from Jessie, extremely experienced latent print examiner, she identifies 3 prints. And when she compares them to those of Ryan Duke, they match. He confesses with his words. He confesses with his writings. He confesses with his action by walking them out there and showing them the location. He confesses with his knowledge, the phone call. And he confesses with his DNA and his prints. Over and over and over again during this interview, Ryan Duke admits that he was dead in the early morning hours of October 23rd, 2005. Throughout the course of this trial, you'll get to hear from a number of witnesses. And what you'll hear will come down to this. Ryan Duke confessed. And at the end of the trial, when you've had time and chances to listen to that evidence, to hear from those witnesses, to physically see the evidence in this case, and to hear it out of his own mouth, the state will ask you to find the defendant guilty of murdering Tara Grinstead on October 23rd of 2005. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hart. Does the defense want to make its opening now or reserve till the state closes its case? All right. Let me ask you to turn your sound system, sir, for the time being. Is something I never do? Okay. Just out of the witness stand is what I'm concerned about. Is it off? Sound off on this system?
Well, yes, sir. It wasn't turned on. It's not working. So the computer wasn't muted.
Okay. So it shouldn't be interfering with him, right?
This wasn't. No, sir.
So I don't know what it is. Y'all off? Thank you. All right. Go ahead, Ms. Murphy.
May I? Sit somewhere so I can see. Yeah, actually.
Can you see that? I'll stand back. Make sure. Okay, great. This case is about power and influence. The people who have it and the people who don't have it. Ryan Duke has neither. He didn't have power and he didn't have influence. Bo Dukes has both. The state has both. And you're going to see that throughout the evidence in this case. I want to walk you through the timeline that the state had already walked through. Okay. I want to walk through the timeline. I know that the state talked about Ms. Grinstead's last day. I want to walk through that with us. Because I think it's important. They showed you pictures of her clothes. They showed you pictures of the clothes that she was wearing in the last photograph that they contend was taken. So that evidence was from Saturday night. So Saturday, October 22nd. And this is important. The timeline is very important in this case. So Saturday, October 22nd, she was seen in those clothes. The state then showed you that those clothes were on her floor, okay? Why are her clothes important? So we've got, let's start with Saturday, okay? So Saturday night, this is October 22nd, 2005. The state showed you that Ms. Grinstead went home that night. They were on the floor. You're going to hear from a witness that said her favorite pair of yoga pants and her brand new sneakers were not found in that house. That evidence is going to tell you she changed clothes and that she put on sneakers. You're going to hear evidence about a door bolt. One of the photos that was taken at the scene is of her door. I was told it would take a few minutes. Your screen's returned. Thank you. Technology. I brought extra pictures just in case. All right, so why is this important? Because the evidence that the state is going to present to you was home. They want you to believe that she was home and that Ryan Duke broke into her home and harmed her. If you look at the top lock, it's one of those hotel locks. So when you go to a hotel and you close the door, you can lock it. You can lock it from the inside so that nobody can get in, so that nobody can break in, so that you can't break in with a credit card. You can't pick that lock. This is the type of lock that if you're home and you have it on your door, the evidence is going to show you would lock it, and that Ms. Grinstead would lock this and would use that to lock the door. The evidence is going to show that that is her habit. She would lock that top lock. And so the version of events that the state has presented and will continue to present conflicts with this. Her car. Let's talk about where her car was seen. And this is important. The car and the glove are both going to be important this time. Okay? So we've got, let's move on to Sunday. All right, so Sunday, October 23rd. This is the date that the state has alleged in the indictment Miss Grinstead was killed, okay? That night, that next morning, there were neighbors across the street who are going to come in here and tell you that her car was not at her house, okay? So, car not there. And this is in the morning. Daylight, in the morning hours. Right? So we've got Saturday night evidence that you'll hear she changed clothes, that she put on her sneakers. You'll hear evidence that Sunday her car was not there. Later on Sunday, you'll hear from those same witnesses that they saw her car appear around dusk. So car is gone all day. And then let's see. What does that tell you? Her car was not home on Sunday. It was not there. So where was it? The evidence is not going to show you that anybody knows what happened to her car that day, where her car was. The really important fact that you're going to hear is that night, so this night, so Sunday night, this is around midnight. But actually, Monday morning, you're going to hear from Heath Dykes. He's going to tell you that glove that the state has just paraded around in multiple pictures and that you're going to hear about this entire week, that glove wasn't there. Why is that important? Well, Heath Dykes, he is a police officer. He is a trained detective. When he went to her house that night, all right, so just to put it back in context, the state is arguing to you that Ryan harmed her Sunday morning. Sunday night, there's no glove. The glove is not there. You're going to hear that from Heath Dykes. And he's a detective, and he was worried about what happened to her. He was dating her. He loved her. What happened to her? He looked around her house. He looked in the windows. He went and played with her dog. He looked all around. He knocked on the door. He left a card. He would have noticed that glove. The state showed you pictures right there in the front yard. He would have noticed that glove. Trained detective. It's not there. It does not conform with what the state has just presented to you happened in this case. Also, you'll hear a kid who Miss Grinstead was watching his dog. That witness will tell you that on this same day, Sunday noon, he went over around 6 or 7 o'clock that night to pick up the dog bowl. So Miss Grinstead was watching his dog, and he had picked the dog up early at the dog bowl. So he talked to her, and she said, dog bowl is in the back, go pick it up. He calls her, she doesn't answer, he drives there. This is around 6 or 7 o'clock at night, on Sunday night. Still light out. He goes up, knocks on her door. Broad daylight, no glove. That glove was not there Sunday night. That glove did not appear until a full day later, on Monday, when the police and Mr. Portier, neighbors, everybody were all over her Monday morning. So there's no glove. So her car's not there, the glove's not there. What's the explanation for that? She left her home. She put on her shoes, she put on her sneakers, and she left her home. Saturday night, the evidence is going to show that she left, or Saturday night, I'm sorry, that she left. You're going to hear about her dog. She had a dog, a German Shepherd named Dolly Madison. You're going to hear that she would leave that dog out when she went out. The dog was out. Heath Dykes will testify. When he came Saturday night, the dog was out. The Portiers will testify that the dog barked all night. She left. She was not home when the state says this happened. The evidence is going to show that she was not in her home. And had she been home, this lock would have prevented what the state will submit Ryan did. Break into her home. Why is that important? Well, as the judge has said, the state has burden of proof. So they have to explain to you what happened here. And nobody knows what happened. Nobody knows what happened this day. They are going to present, we anticipate, a theory based on a statement that Ryan made to a GBI. The evidence is going to show that Ryan admitted that he had taken a narcotic, pain medicine, prior to that statement. The evidence is going to show he was under the effects of this pain medicine. You'll see it. The state showed you a photo. You'll see it. This glove that didn't appear until Monday morning. The state cannot get Bo Duke's DNA off of that glove. You will hear evidence that they tried. You will hear evidence they talked with the GBI and tried to make deviations, and you'll hear all about it, but tried very hard to change standards to get Bo Duke's DNA off of that glove. At best, it was inconclusive. What does inconclusive mean? You'll hear it means a weak match. It means they cannot get his DNA off of that glove. You'll also hear that that glove had at least 3 DNA profiles on it. Not 2, at least 3. I want to talk a little bit about the phone records. The state has submitted to you that the phone records are what they call guilty knowledge. That nobody knows about these phone records and they've been kept secret all these years, and so it's sort of like this smoking gun. Well, 2 things I want to point out with that. First of all, Tara's phone records do not show a call from a payphone. Her actual certified phone records do not show that she received a call on the 23rd from a payphone. You'll hear from a detective that he looked at one on her caller ID and that he compared the caller ID time to his watch, and so he thinks it's accurate. But that call does not show up on her phone records. Now, the state is going to put in, I believe, evidence that someone used that payphone at around that time to call information, okay? But it doesn't show up on her phone records. But I submit to you, what is the evidence that that phone call, that Ryan harmed Tara Grinstead? It doesn't. It's not even accurate. This glove you've heard about, this phone call you've heard about, the state in their opening said these are things that Ryan confessed to. Well, I'm going to read some of what the evidence is going to show was said to Ryan when he confessed to these things. Listen very carefully during the interview of Ryan, during the GBI interview. Listen very carefully to who introduces these smoking guns first. Because the state has submitted that they are evidence of guilty knowledge, okay? Guilty knowledge would be, oh, well, only the person who did knows about this. The gloves. Agent Sheldell, tell me about the gloves. I know there were some gloves at your house. Is that going to have your DNA on it? Ryan, it should. They were. Agent Sheldell keeps asking about the gloves. So you used the gloves when you used the body? Ryan, I don't even think I used them. Agent Sheldell, what did you do to clean up? You wore the gloves, right? No, sir. Agent Sheldell, When you went to clean up, you wore gloves. Ryan, no, sir. I never put gloves on. Agent Shadell introduces the gloves. Ryan doesn't. Shadell keeps asking him. A person who has taken medicine and is there and is terrified. Terrified for his family. The evidence will show that he is scared to death of Bo Dukes because he knows what Bo Dukes has done and he knows what Bo Dukes is capable of. And he is there telling what he thinks he has to tell to protect his family. So when Agent Shadell introduces the glove, at first he says no, because he didn't. But after repeated questioning, he gives in. The phone call, this guilty knowledge phone call that's been kept secret all these years. Who introduced it? Agent Shadell. Agent Shadell, did you ever make any phone calls or anything like that to the house? Ryan, no, sir. Agent Shadell, well, we know there were some phone calls that got made to her house. Ryan, oh yeah, that's when I called her. I hadn't gotten her at that point. I was hoping she was okay. Well, how did you call? What did you do? Then Agent Shadell tells Ryan, I know you're telling the truth. At that point, he phone call, and Ryan, at first, disputed it, and then when he says, yeah, you're right, then Agent Shadell says you're telling the truth. You're going to hear that there was a lot of evidence taken in this case. There were over, and I had to write this down, there were over 117 swabs taken from Miss Grinstead's car. And why is her car important? Well, you're going to hear evidence that it wasn't there on this day. You're also going to hear evidence that it returned to her home and it was dirty. The tires were filthy. There was mud all over them. And that Miss Grinstead did not keep her car that way. So her car was always clean. So that was odd. Also, that the seat in her car was pushed all the way back. She was a tiny person. So the seat was pushed back for someone who was much bigger than Miss Grinstead. Evidence that her car was not there on Sunday and that someone drove her car. So because of that, the police thought that was important, and they swabbed her car. They took fingerprints and they took DNA swabs. Only 7 of those were ever actually tested. No idea why. You're going to hear evidence that that's up to the GBI. That's up to the state. The defense can't test that type of evidence. What are you not going to hear? What else are you not going to hear? You're not going to hear any evidence that Ryan had his blood, semen, saliva, skin cells, prints, anything in that house. Not one piece of evidence that Ryan was in that house. Not one piece of evidence that Ryan was in that car. They took fingerprints off the door, off this door that they're going to ask you to believe he broke into with a credit card. They took fingerprints. Not one single one matched Ryan. The state's theory, we believe, is based on a statement that was taken from Ryan and that was not the truth. Does the state know the truth? We'll have to see at the end of this case if the state has presented any evidence that they actually know what happened in this case. But what we do know is that Ryan did not harm Miss Grinstead. And at the end of this trial, you will agree with us that Ryan did not harm Miss Grinstead, that he was not in her home, and that he did not assault her, he did not burglarize her. He's charged with burglarizing, he's charged with assault, that he did not do any of those things. Like I said at the beginning, this case, it's about power and it's about influence. What's great about jury service is that at this point, you all hold the power. You have the influence. And at the end of this case, we're going to come back up here and we're going to ask you to render a verdict. We're going to ask you to render a verdict that speaks the truth and that speaks justice for everybody involved in this case. And that verdict is going to be not guilty because Ryan Duke did not commit the crimes that he is charged with committing in Irwin County. He did not murder Miss Grinstead. He did not assault Miss Grinstead. He did not burglarize Miss Grinstead. He did not conceal her death in Irwin County. He did none of the things that he's indicted for. And you all will agree with us at the end of this trial. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Need a break, ladies and gentlemen? We've been going about an hour. Anybody need a break? Okay.
Sorry, to be a fresh small.
Recess, okay? Bathroom break, if you have any smokers, the bailiffs will help you outside and get you right back. This will be a recess for about 10 minutes, and y'all will just adjourn to the jury room here. Thank you.
Open this. Fucking A. I swear, this computer sucks. So, I don't know if we got through the first break of this trial. And we're waiting. They're letting the jury out, and I think it's a 15-minute break at that. Not sure how long they will go today. It's in Georgia, so it's on EST time. And it is 3:30, so they may come back and then adjourn about 4:30. I'm not sure. We will see. But I'm interested in knowing what you guys think. So if and when you guys find the video, which I hope you do, I hope I get some comments on it and see what y'all think. Like I said, I'm not sure how long the break is going to be. Glad they got the volume or whatever sound system working correctly now, because you can hear it a little bit better. I do know that. Which I'm surprised Court TV had nothing about it, since I am streaming through them, which it's okay. I am allowed to do that. But usually they go to break, and when they go to break, they talk about the case so far. And so far, nothing out of any of the anchors. So I don't know what's going on with that. I might have to turn on court. Eva, what are you growling about? Get over here and lay down. you growling at? Who you growling at? Ain't nobody over there. Nobody over there, crazy. You're nuts. Nuts, nuts, nuts. What are you doing? You chilling? Huh? That mommy's going. That mommy's going. What you doing? What you doing? Here. Well, this is like taking forever. Alright, I'm gonna pause this. Hello, welcome in. Oh my gosh, this is. Whoever's taking this video is so in trouble if they find out they got the damn phone in the courthouse. Oh God, I wish this trial would come on. It would start back up. How are you doing? How are you doing? Who is with me today? I know you're probably not going to say hi. Um, oh boy, anticipation of this trial, and it's pissing me off. They could at least had somebody come on court TV as an anchor and talk about it, like make it a little bit more interesting. I think this is going to be one of those boring ass. Let's see if there's anything else on her. Oh, I spelled it wrong. It's time. Let's change this. And we're going to watch this one. Oh boy.
That's what about because I was like, man, that pretty lady over here kind of.
USAA is made for pilots who won't return a call until the engine's cool. With USAA
Beloved goes missing and just the face of the planet.
Sinister details are revealed.
It takes over 1,200 degrees to burn human bones.
But do we really know what happened?
Romans 3:23 says, "For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God."
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jesse Weber, and welcome to Crime Tonight. This is where we do a deeper depth profile and memorable true crime cases. Mystery surrounding a missing woman and the revelations. South of nestled in Irwin County lies Ocilla, Georgia.
It's a very small community. Everybody literally knows everybody else.
A city known for its farming and sweet potato festival would be rocked by a chillman.
October 2005 was the beginning of one of the painful journeys that any family could ever faced with.
October 24th, 2005, former beauty queen and history teacher Tara Grinstead eerily doesn't show up to work at Irwin County High School. She was last seen at a cookout in her neighborhood 2 days earlier and believed to have driven home at around 11.
I mean, can you living in a small town in this beloved person?
Georgia Bureau of Investigation, a massive probe looking into various theories from suicide to possible involvement by ex-boyfriends like Army Ranger Marcus, who had a difficult relationship, but in the end, alibis and a lack of evidence would dry up leads and the on for years. Then in 2016, something happened.
Months ago, I was looking for
launches the Up and Vanished podcast, which brings new eyes and attention to the story.
I think that the podcast really did stir things up again. The case was cold when I got involved with it, and has basically caused everyone in the town to start talking again.
In 2017, police arrest Ryan Duke and Bo Dukes. The two are not related, but close.
Bo and Ryan were high school friends, and they both had been students at Irwin County High School, where Tara Grinstead had been a teacher. In fact, maybe even been in her classes.
All right, now it's time to against both. Go through it. Let's ask, what is the real story? XRF ended in 2017. Let's go back to 2016, when John McCullough of Bo Dukes reached out to investigators about a conversation he had with 2006. Started as Dukes just being drunk at the time. A recorded call, but Shadell is released to the public.
He was like, "Do you remember?" Because I was like, "Man, that's a lady." I was like, "That's kind of, kind of." Because I noticed, it said, "Hey, all this other stuff," and he was, "I know what happened to her."
In this shocking twist, Dukes claimed his friend Tara, and then he helped to clean up the evidence by burning her body unpeeled.
He was like, it takes 1,200 degrees human bones. He said that a couple of times to whenever he there, telling me the story he was talking about.
Agent Shadell speaks to McCullough. He then questions Dukes about this.
I mean, he was pretty animate regarding like burning a body, and that's. I mean, now you understand. I have to talk to you. It's just one of those things that.
No. I mean, I remember it was in the news and all, but.
Well,
I understand.
Yeah, so you didn't help anybody burn her body, get rid of her, or any of that good stuff?
No.
Interview that would result in Duke's arrest. Why? Fast forward to February 2017, Duke sits down with Shadell and in back, something big.
Told me that he had killed Terry Grinstead. I thought he was. I thought it was not. I told him, didn't go on sleep.
Bo claimed that his friend Ryan Duke confessed to murdering her body on Bo's family's pecan. He then agrees to go to the site to check this out.
And he showed me where her body was. And I asked him what the hell it happened. He
La Roche-Posay Amphilia appearance of sun damage. Fluid lightweight sunscreen with Celac UVB antioxidants. La Roche-Posay Amphilia sunscreen. 90,000 dermatologists worldwide.
Have you ever wondered what would happen if you sat down and talked with missionaries from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? Well, the end is about. Maybe you want a closer.
He told me that he had gone to her house that night and strangled her in the bed and brought her body to poetry.
Strangulation is one of the most intimate methodology in others' life because it is very intimate. You have to get within that close space.
Such a violent killing, though, Dukes describes a number of injuries on Tara.
Can you describe it on something? Almost like bruising. Yes. Not extremely noticeable, but they're there. What are like lines or anything like really distinct? Okay.
You just place this person on a solid surface like the floor or even on the bed, you gain the upper hand in this event and you choke her out. It's going to require a tremendous amount of pressure in order to facilitate this. Might not even need to knock her about at all. First off,
burned corpse.
And move your body to wood. Wood. And burn it.
Would be confirmed by the and found charred.
had to have used celery or some type of petroleum. They have to be prepped with wood on place to fuel the fire, and this is a constant find the fuel, but stuck.
That's not all. Authorities a latex glove outside Tara's home. Testing identified both Tara and Ryan Duke's DNA on the glove. Strangely, though, according to Bo's interview,
I asked him the gloves. He told me that he didn't use gloves. So, yeah. You know,
typically imply that Duke's DNA and Tara's DNA just miraculously up on the glove. You have to have an individual wearing this glove. They have to have had contact with
prosecutors indicted in connection with lying to investigators in 2016, could have been arrested earlier, especially since it's been alleged these men bragged about what they did at a party weeks after Tara vanished. Dukes admitted he killed other people over the years, including his ex-girlfriend Brooke Vernon, who tipped off the police in 2017.
We're talking about an area that is very, very sparsely populated. It leaves me, and I'm Monday morning quarterback, but it leaves me to ask the question, was everything pursued, could have been pursued at the time?
The GBI had said Bowen came up before, but evidence suggests that's not true.
It was told to me that years ago, just a few weeks after she went missing, law enforcement went out there based on a tip that they heard Ryan Duke and Bo Dukes had murdered out in this pecan orchard, and they were turned away. Information was given to the GBI, so in their radar for this long, and it makes you wonder away in the first place.
Statement by the GBI, or if it was just they were aware of what was the case file. It's probably that. They probably just didn't realize that they had these names, and it's a big misstep.
Whatever may be the case, the reality is we're now left with evidence corroborates certain elements of the story. Some argue something feels off. Why did he agree to say these things to law enforcement? Why Ryan do this? And maybe someone was hiding something.
I do think that Ryan Duke and Bo Dukes are both involved, but I do think maybe Bo Dukes is more than he's saying.
People continually debate who is the killer.
This is just simple.
Becoming unrivaled is about exceeding expectations.
To become unrivaled, you have to raise
expectations, innovation, result.
That's the everything looks sort of weird. I've seen the bruising, sort of weird. I mean, I've seen.
Tara Grinstead disappeared suddenly in 2005 and would take over suspects and Bo Dukes to be caught. But if you think this is an open and shut case,
Bo Dukes told investigators that his friend Ryan Duke strangled Tara to death. He assisted in burning the body and then lied about it to authorities. But a closer look at the case raises doubts as to who actually killed Tara. Let's start with Duke's motive.
Why? And then why? I mean, no. And why? Never said why or. No.
Brings us to Ryan Duke himself,
who allegedly confessed to police as well.
According to reports, he claims he
broke into Tara's house to steal
drugs
and then killed her when she caught him in the act. That narrative
suspicions too.
I never involved the idea that this was a burglary gone bad. Somebody just walks in, some kind of theft. You know, I used to be a police officer, and it's a really small. And I've seen that happen. I've seen that. And I know what was in it. Nothing of value. And there was nothing of value. There would be nothing.
There's no
serve one to burglarize.
So as an investigator, there's no sign can do and kind of process together. One of the things that says is, well, this is a burglary. Wouldn't there be some evidence that someone gained access to an area in which they had that something was denying them, some kind of physical impediment, like or something such as this, or a bar. That doesn't exist.
Maybe she didn't let
It's a
her.
matter of what Dukes noticed about how he saw her body.
He takes you to this orchard, and is there anything more?
I was not close at all. I wasn't good or anything. So face up, good access.
Yet according to Dukes, Ryan says he didn't sexually assault the former beauty queen.
There was some kind of intimate. I can't speak to Tara's between the two people. I can't speak to Tara's around the home, but it does seem odd. Why else would you have a body? What else would be the motive unless it was revenge for something? There seems to be potentially an underlying sexual here. Something did in fact that Jesse is that something did in fact that's occurred. The very problem with that, Jesse, is that
maybe there's not a clear reason I do murder Tara.
Difficult to prove.
Because
maybe there's not a clear reason for why Duke would
was on
murder
drugs and provided a
because
false
he
confession.
didn't do it. His attorneys argue that
Someone
he was on
can
drugs and provided
believe
these.
that they need to tell can law they might need laws in their best interest to hear. They might believe that it's in their best interest to frame things. There's all sorts of reasons why people really do falsely confess to a crime.
Although Dukes concede he helped in the crime, they say killer, and it's been alleged scared of Bo.
He told me that he was scared of what Bo would have done if he would have come forward. Other than that,
Some argue it's a bit strange that Bo would help Ryan dispose of human remains and the police. Bo seems to claim he had no choice once Ryan showed him Tara's body on his family property.
Yeah. And why would you What did he say? Tell me.
That Bo admit to law enforcement about what he did.
On one hand, maybe he had guilty conscience.
So he came without you. You have issues. You know, you can't tell him. Because you've been wanting to talk about this for all the time. Yeah.
Then
again, Agent
They tried to cancel me. Tried to shut me up. And they failed. America loves a comeback. So here I am, baby.
Morgan Uncensored.
Streaming
week.
It's only on Fox
Nation. You can't.
Agent Shadell asked why he didn't just tell the truth in the 2016 interview. That's what leads to the idea that Bo Dukes may not be as honest as he claims. After all, it's arguably very convenient that Bo admits to only getting involved after Tara's death.
It sort of gives the appearance of someone who is trying to maybe minimize their own conduct. and throw someone else under the bus so that they can avoid the mandatory life sentence that goes along with murder. So the idea is you can confess to a peace law enforcement knows that you were a participant. If you I was there, but I really wasn't much involved, you can maybe sort of spin your version of events in a way that's helpful.
The theory that Bo Dukes is the real killer could be supported that Payne Lindsay was told by an unnamed source, in which he shared, up and vanished.
Years ago, his brother picked up when he was Ryan Duke from a bar in Ocilla, and this man told him that one time he blacked out and he thought that he killed somebody. And something about that story just rings true to me. What if he thought that he did kill Tara Grinstead? But he doesn't even really remember. What if these guys were messed up that night?
We know that false memories hurt. We know that people can be subject to the power of suggestion. You can take a person and tell them that they did something and actually get them to believe it. So there are a lot of people who think that might be the case here. A lot of people believe that maybe the roles are reversed. Okay, maybe it's Bo Dukes who committed this crime and suggested to Ryan that that's what happened.
Here's what we do know. Bo Dukes went to trial in Wilcox County and was convicted of lying to authorities, concealing Tara's death, and helping to prevent Ryan's arrest. After a heart-wrenching tax statement from Tara's stepmother,
he did nothing. He just went on living his life, not caring about the pain he had caused to others. He knew she was never coming back. He could have at least told us that, but he didn't.
He himself spoke out in court.
Family, I'm truly sorry. Your long suffering has been unimaginable. My actions were cowardly, callous, and cruel. I was more interested in self-pity and self-preservation when the right thing for Tara and for you. I pray for your forgiveness.
But the judge wasn't having any of it.
Romans 3:23 says, "For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God." We all have. But that would have been the time to come forward.
Dukes was sentenced to 25 years in prison. At the time of this recording,
Dukes faces a separate
trial in Ben Hill County related to the burning of Tara's body. Ryan Duke's murder trial has been delayed as he now appeals to Georgia Supreme Court, asking for the state to pay for its experts.
There's a big fight over money. The defense wants to hire expert witnesses because if you're going to convince the jury that your client's confession was false confession, you've got to be able to back that up. He says, I'm guilty. I've told him I've committed these other crimes. I'm going to have to do a lot of prison time anyway. So I may as well just stay here in the local jail, keep my mouth shut, not press for a speedy trial. Not for a speedy trial. Guess what happens over time? Because guess what happens over time? Here, witnesses. It's much harder to try a case years and years after arrest.
And there's even uncertainty if we see any trial.
Whether any of these cases come to trial is questionable in my view at this point. Because our court system is so backed up, and in the case of Bo Dukes, for example, he's going to be in prison already for a very long time.
As these legal proceedings continue, what we will ask is who killed Tara Grinstead.
I can't say for anything that I've read, that I've learned sources told me about. I can't say definitively that Bo is not the killer. I think that it's very plausible he might be.
At the end of the day, with this case, science is going to tell. And you have to ask this question. What is the source of the DNA? And from an investigative standpoint, who had the biggest motivation?
Yeah, I think it's going to be one person's word versus the other person's word. And very interesting, I think.
Mystery since 2005 has started to unravel. And while we know more details about what happened, we still have questions that we may never know the answers to. That's all we have for you on Prime Crime tonight. Give us your comments on the Tara Grinstead case on Twitter and Facebook with the hashtag Prime Crime Tonight. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, be safe.
Well, I'm not sure what happened to the trial. Never came back on. I think Court TV was having some issues with their live stream and audio sound this morning. So hopefully they'll pick up tomorrow and we can pick up from there. Until then, I will see you later this evening.